Raider Nation, good morning. It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, with some major Raiders rumors on Pete Carroll and on Maxx Crosby. This is coming in from Adam Schefter, Tom Pellissero, Dianna Russini, Ian Rapoport, tons and tons of Dan Graziano, tons of NFL insiders, because we got to be able to face the facts here. The fact that the Raiders are going to be playing in their final game tomorrow, you already know there's a lot of head coaching rumors, and there's some major trade rumors around Maxx Crosby. There's a reason why I'm making a video on my off day. It's because when I hear stuff like this, I gotta make you a video. Now, even though it's my off day, I got commitment to excellence. And if you're a Raiders fan, you're like, I don't give a shit if we're 2-14. It's the off season, basically, and I can't wait for the craziest off season of all time. Make sure you click that subscribe button for free Raiders videos every single day. Also, I'm going to be live 49ers Seahawks tonight. If you're like, Mitch, why are you going to be live for the NFC West Championship game? Because the Raiders can beat the Chiefs, and the Giants can lose to the Dallas Cowboys, and the Raiders can still have that number one overall pick if 3 out of these 4 things end up happening. The 49ers beat the Seahawks. Let's go Niners. If the Bengals beat the Browns, let's go Bengals. If the Saints beat the Falcons, let's go Saints. And then if the Lions beat the Bears. So 3 out of those 4 things, if that happens, the Raiders can still beat the Chiefs, FKC, and the Giants can lose to the Cowboys. By the way, I'm going to be live. Giants, Cowboys tomorrow, because if the Giants win, it doesn't matter. We have the number 1 overall pick. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to first start with the Adam Schefter report, and then I'm just going to kind of work my way through to get to the Maxx Crosby trade rumors at the end of today's show. Here's what Schefter and Dan Graziano reported around Pete Carroll and the Raiders head coaching job. My sense is that a lot of people are watching Las Vegas for the potential that Pete Carroll is a one and done with the Raiders. This season has gone quite poorly. They seem to be positioning themselves for the number 1 draft pick. So the theory is they might want someone else around to develop that selection if it's a quarterback. I know this is early on in the video, but I do want to know from you guys. Will Pete Carroll get fired on Sunday after the Raiders game? There's been a lot of speculation. I've been saying for weeks, months at this point, that all signs are that the Raiders are going to be moving on from Pete Carroll. The question is it going to happen Sunday night? Is it going to happen Monday morning? I'm going to tell you when I think it's going to end up happening. But first, will Pete Carroll get fired on Sunday after the Raiders game? You're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down. Give me your answer, yes or no, on Pete getting fired on Sunday. I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to go, yes, Pete Carroll is going to be fired Sunday night, potentially Monday morning. But I did speak with a source this morning, and they told me be ready for a crazy night tomorrow. They texted me today. So the fact that I received a text message today that was along the lines of, make sure you're rested, tomorrow's going to be a long day, and if you're the Raiders and you lose or win that game and you have the number 1 overall pick, I think even worst case scenario, you end up finishing with the number 2 pick, you already know that you got to get this thing moving in the right direction. But it's also because of the respect they have for Pete Carroll. I know that a lot of people don't like the job that Pete has done, but Pete Carroll is very well liked. He's very well respected still in that building, and there's a lot of people that just think that his time, has kind of passed him by, and I don't blame Pete for trying to win. Right now, he's 74 years old, but there was a clear disconnect between Spytek and Pete Carroll. Now, in terms of the names that I am hearing, I really am only hearing defensive-minded guys. I was told Jesse Minter many, many weeks ago. It's been the number 1 name that I've discussed on this show. Robert Saleh has been a name that I've heard. I've also heard Brian Flores, which is interesting because all 3 of those coaches are defensive-minded head coaches. And in my personal opinion, if you're going to draft somebody along the lines of Fernando Mendoza at number 1 overall, I actually think it makes a lot more sense to go out and get a offensive-minded head coach. Now, one of the things that I heard today that was floated out around me is that the Raiders could be eyeing not only Jesse Minter as their head coach, but they also could be eyeing Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator if the Miami Dolphins do decide to move on from him. I want to be very clear. I think Mike McDaniel is the perfect offensive coordinator for the Raiders because I want somebody that has got head coaching experience, somebody that It's kind of like Josh McDaniels, where not everybody is built to be a head coach. Josh McDaniels is built to be an offensive coordinator. I think Mike McDaniels is built to be an offensive coordinator. But why that's interesting is because Mike McDaniels is a run-first-minded coach. That's what this Raiders offense needs to be, even if you draft Fernando Mendoza. You got Ashton Genty, you got Brock Bowers. The way that you're going to get the best version out of Mendoza is you let him play in an offense where they're going to run the football, because if you don't have an offense that can run the football, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to draft Fernando Mendoza, because that's when he's at his best. Play action, RPOs, options, that type of stuff makes Mendoza at his absolute best. Though I did see over the past few, I want to say it was like 2 days ago, maybe 24 hours ago, that Jeremy Fowler reported that the Raiders might look at Cliff Kingsbury as a potential head coach option. I'm going to be very honest. I don't see that happening. And I'm not saying that Fowler's getting information, and I saw a lot of people saying, oh, Fowler's reporting that the Raiders are eyeing Cliff Kingsbury. That's not true. What Fowler did a few days ago, or again, 24 hours ago, I don't remember what it was, he basically said that he thought Cliff Kingsbury could be an option for the Raiders, and I'm only saying that he's thinking that is because the Raiders tried to hire Cliff back when Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco were the head coach GM combination in 2024. I was the very first person to report that Cliff Kingsbury did not end up wanting to take that job. Cliff wanted the 3-year deal. The Raiders were only willing to offer him 2. Also, Cliff wanted to work with Jaden Daniels. Didn't sound like the Raiders were going to be able to go up and get him. So what did Cliff do? He took the job with Washington, where he was going to be able to go get his quarterback, and he was going to be able to go with that offense. The only reason why, though, I don't see Cliff being that head coach option is because the way that went down, it was a verbal agreement. Handshake agreement. Cliff Kingsbury, you're going to be the next offensive coordinator of the Raiders. I'm just telling you this right now. It did not sit well with certain people in that organization. Didn't sit well with some people that are very, very high up with the Raiders. And I understand that also, Robert Saleh last year was also kind of like, I'm not really interested in the job. There's a reason why Jesse Minter's name keeps getting brought up. I believe Jesse Minter is the number one candidate for the Las Vegas Raiders. I've made numerous videos on it. But anytime I hear stuff, anytime I get information, my job here is to relay it to you. Again, I don't give a shit if it's my off day. I am so excited for Raiders football again, and if you feel the exact same way, hit that like button. Let's go to the next story here, and it's from Tom Pellissero and Ian Rapoport. Again, the things that I'm reading are literally word for word out of the reports that they put out this morning. Quote, signs are pointing towards another reset in Las Vegas, where Pete Carroll's status is very much in doubt. It will be at this point a major surprise if Carroll returns for a second season. Owner Mark Davis has the final call. He has not communicated any decision, often takes a day or two after the season before making changes. But after a disappointing season, one in which the Raiders have fired 2 coordinators, lost 14 of their last 15 games, and worn out the patience of team leader Maxx Crosby, it's hard to imagine Davis staying status quo. So while Carroll, 74, has been fighting for another year, the feeling within the league and within the building is Davis will go in another direction. And that likely is the start of a full rebuild. The right way. Las Vegas has a long way to go roster-wise and appears to recognize what is in front of them. Minority owner Tom Brady is close to general manager John Spytek, his one-time teammate at Michigan. If Carroll is let go, they are expected to play a key role in advising Davis on the next hire. With a loss on Sunday to the Kansas City Chiefs, the Raiders would finish 2-15, secure the number 1 pick to target the franchise quarterback who could be the centerpiece of that rebuild. So there's been a lot of wonder who the Raiders could be having the top 2 guys looking for the search. I'm just telling you this. I've talked to multiple people that have talked to Raiders owners and talked to people inside of that front office. John Spytek and Tom Brady are going to be the top 2 people that are going to help build the Raiders the way that you want this team to be built. And again, that's a good thing. Tom Brady wanted Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson. We just didn't have a quarterback plan in order to get there, so they didn't want to take this job. If you have the number 1 overall pick, You can go out and you can draft a Fernando Mendoza. You could also trade back and potentially get a guy like Lamar Jackson. If I'm the Raiders, I'm either going to have Fernando Mendoza as my quarterback or I'm going to end up having Lamar Jackson as my quarterback. I really don't want to hear any other options. Yes, you can listen to options. I'll listen to Malik Willis. Maybe if we hired a Robert Saleh. What's up, buddy? Sorry, Chuck's in the room. Chuck's super excited, by the way, about tonight's live show. But Spytek and Brady, they're two Michigan guys, and they're going to be all in on what this search is going to be. You know, you heard rumors about front office disconnect. Tom Brady and John Spytek have been on the exact same page all along. The problem is you hired Pete Carroll, who wanted to do his own thing and didn't want to follow along with the plan. That's why Pete's going to be the one that's out and not John Spytek, and they're going to keep a lot of these guys in the front office. But the fact that, again, Ian Rapoport and all them are saying that it's going to be Tom Brady and it's going to be John Spytek, they're Michigan guys. They got a lot of ties. My source is very close to somebody close to Spytek, and I'm telling you this, Jesse Minter is the number one candidate right now on the Raiders' radar, because the number one candidate on John Spytek and Tom Brady's radar is Jesse flippin' Minter. Coming up next here, maybe the reason why you clicked on this video, the latest Maxx Crosby trade rumors. And I put out a show last week saying that a Crosby trade is more likely than ever. A Maxx Crosby trade isn't impossible this offseason. I have been somebody on this show that has shut down Crosby trade rumors left and right. I have been on social media at Mitchell Renz 365 left and right saying, no, I think that the Jay Glazer report's been blown out of proportion. I'm not saying that what you're about to hear means Crosby's going to be dealt, but y'all know where there's smoke, there is fire. And there's a key phrase that I'm going to revisit. Maybe you heard me say it earlier on today's show. A key phrase. And when people that talk say things that are very, very close, Raider Nation needs to pay attention. That's what I'm here for. Before we get into that, though, Panda Sups is today's sponsor. Listen, man, new year, new you. I don't need to sell you on it. If you've ever had Panda Sups, it's the best protein on the market. You know, over the past, 2-3 weeks during the holidays, I got a sweet tooth. I eat a bunch of crap. And now my wife's saying, hey, we're doing dry January. She is, at least. She's doing a lot of healthy stuff. We're trying to be healthier around the house. Late last night, I'm sitting there, I'm craving some cookies. So what do? I go grab a cookie. I'm not going to lie. I grab one cookie. But then also, you make a little bit of Panda Sups, make a little bit of a protein shake. 30 grams of protein. The flavors are unbelievable. They also have brand new seasonings. They have some pre-workout that I really recommend if you're like, dude, I have a hard time waking up in the morning and going to the gym. Dude, I got a hard time going into the gym after I get done with work. I'm a normal human being. I'm just like all of y'all. Maybe need a little scoop of the Pando. Awesome pre-workout. Now, the code is Raiders Panda. RAIDERS PANDA. If you can spell Raiders and you can spell Panda, slap that bad boy together and you're rocking with 25% off at pandasups.com. If anybody out there has had Panda Sups, let people know down in the comments. I know that they've been a sponsor on the show for 5 years. 6 years probably at this point. It's owned and operated by a diehard Raiders fan. It's how he found the show, and anybody that I've ever talked to about Panda Sups absolutely loves their product. So that link's down in the comments. It's down in the description. Also, if you spend over $199, you get free shipping and you get free pre-workout. I'm just saying, this is the time of the year. No more excuses. It's time to buckle up, Buttercup. Get your ass in the gym. All right, let's go to the next story here, and it's from Dianna Russini, and this is the one around Maxx Crosby and a potential trade and the trade rumors. Here's Dianna, what she had to say. Again, it's a direct quote from the article she put out. Maxx Crosby, Raiders' future, is also being questioned around the league. Las Vegas shut down its 5-time Pro Bowler last week against his wishes, and the relationship between the sides remains strained. It's a dramatic shift from just 2 months ago when Crosby and Davis nixed any trade discussions ahead of the November 4th deadline. Many believe Las Vegas will be open to moving its star pass rusher if the relationship remains at an impasse, allowing Crosby, who will turn 29 this summer, an opportunity to compete on a team built to win right now. So when you hear that report, again, I want to be very clear. I've talked to people close to Maxx Crosby, and I do think that the media is blowing the Maxx Crosby Raiders relationship out of proportion. I do. Max has been in that building. I'm not saying Max is happy-go-lucky, but I also think that Max understands a little bit more now why they did what they did. Doesn't mean that he likes it. He wants to go out there. He wants to play. He wants to play every game. You know, there's a time in every athlete's life where you don't have the opportunity to put those cleats on, to be able to put that helmet on, to be able to put those shoulder pads on and go out there and freaking hit somebody. And I'll tell you this, if I was as good as Maxx Crosby, I would love to go out there and hit some freaking guys. But the other thing that the Raiders really got to understand, and something that Max has got to understand, that's why I've done multiple shows on it, is if Maxx Crosby can't get on board with what the Raiders' plan is, then you have to entertain the idea of a trade, because the 2025 season is what happens when not everybody is on board with the same plan. If John Spytek's trying to build for the future and a Pete Carroll's trying to win right now, I don't care how many guys you got in that room. If you got disconnect, it ain't going to work. So where it's really, really important is the guy that wears a C on his chest, the number one player, the face of your franchise. If he's not on board with what you're doing, you have to entertain the idea of a trade. And the other reason why that I say that is because Maxx Crosby also structured his contract. If the Raiders weren't winning in the year of 2027 is really the big year, but it can happen in 2026. They front-loaded his contract for a reason, to make it easier to move on from him and also to put more money in his pocket. To me, I still do not think that Crosby is going to be dealt. I want to be very clear on that. I don't think it's going to happen. I know Max wants to be a Raider. I'm not saying he doesn't want to win, but Maxx Crosby wants to be a Raider. But did you notice one of the things that Ian Rapoport said in his article? Tom Pellissero, what they said in their article. I'm going to read you this quote again, and some of you are going to go, all right, Mitch, you've said that before. Here's the quote. And the likely is to start a full rebuild the right way. Las Vegas has a long way to go roster-wise and appears to recognize what is in front of them. Full rebuild is the term I want you to hear there. From Rap Sheet, from Pellissero. Rap and Pellissero talk to Dianna Russini. They do. They are always in communication. So if Rapoport and Pellissero are putting out that report and they use the term full rebuild, Dianna puts out what she's hearing saying Maxx Crosby could potentially be traded. The people that I talked to 2 weeks ago, and again, I already put out my video probably 10 days ago at this point. It was last Friday. What's today, Saturday? 8 days ago. But I made the show on Tuesday, so I made it 10 days ago. And it was around the idea of, yes, there is a potential that Maxx Crosby could be traded. But the key word in there is full rebuild. If you're the Raiders and you go full rebuild, you trade away Maxx Crosby. You get multiple first-round picks and you build for the future. The reason why that's interesting is because, again, think about who's keeping their job. Think about who's not keeping their job. John Spytek's keeping his job. He wanted to rebuild. He wanted to build for the future. Pete Carroll's one and done. Why? He wanted to win right now. So you got to think about who's making decisions. Tom Brady, John Spytek, they're the ones making decisions. And if Tom Brady and John Spytek are the ones making decisions, that's rebuild. And when you have to do a rebuild on a rebuild, you could argue that that's a full rebuild. Now, I will still say that you can keep Maxx Crosby and do a rebuild and do a full rebuild, if I'm being 100% honest, because you have the draft picks. You need the number one overall pick. If you don't got the number one overall pick, well, then I don't know how the hell you're going to be able to do a rebuild. But if you were Las Vegas and you're sitting there going, all right, I got the number one pick. I want to be able to take my quarterback, but yeah, you know what? We still have a lot of holes that we need to be able to fill on this team. It would be nice to trade back. The way that you can get your quarterback Mendoza at number one overall and then still be able to retool and add a lot of other players and get a lot of extra draft capital is to move on from Maxx Crosby. If you don't want to move on from Maxx Crosby, well, then maybe you should entertain the idea of trading away that number one overall pick, getting extra draft capital, but then you got to go out and then you got to find your quarterback. To me, we're going to do a lot of trade videos. We're going to do a lot of conversations. It would really come down to what the New York Jets would be willing to offer for that number one overall pick. But I don't want to get to a whole nother, because again, this offseason, you could go down so many roads. But the fact that Dianna Russini is saying she's hearing Crosby could be dealt, the fact that Ian Rapoport uses the word full rebuild, and the amount of times that I have said full rebuild on this show, I'm not saying Max is going to get dealt, but you do have to realize if you have the number 1 overall pick, if you're bringing in a head coach, and if that head coach wants to do that full rebuild with John Spytek and get that young rookie quarterback, there is a chance that Max could be dealt. We all love 98. Everybody here loves 98, but nobody is above the shield. And if Max doesn't get on board, he could be traded. Just like Pete Carroll couldn't get on board, and his ass is going to be out the door probably Sunday night. All right, y'all, I'm getting ready to hop on out of here. Greatly appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in to today's show. I know it's a little bit different when I film at home, but to me, I kind of like doing the at-home videos because I can just sit back, chop it up with you. If you enjoyed today's show, reminder, I'm going to be home today watching 49ers Seahawks with my dog Chuck. Maybe I can even convince my wife to watch a snap or two. We'll see. Appreciate each and every one of y'all tuning in. And again, it's going to be a crazy next 48 hours. Make sure you're sleeping. Make sure you're well rested. Make sure your notifications are turned on. And if Pete Carroll gets fired, buckle up because it's going to be a ride. And I will be live on the Raiders Report. You're going to get a lot of live content from me today. Today live. Tomorrow, live for Cowboys-Giants, live for Raiders-Chiefs. Pete Carroll's going to get fired. I literally think that you guys could be hanging out with me starting tonight, tomorrow, Pete. There's a really good chance in the next 48 hours, I'm live for 24 hours of it. Oh, man, let's go. I can't wait for 2026. I got to get out of here. I'm going to go take Chuck for a walk. Today sounds like it's going to be fun. Tomorrow is going to be insane. Make sure you guys are ready to go. If you're looking for even more Raiders videos from me, you can always click this subscribe button right here. I promise you I'm always going to do my best to keep you guys up to date. If you're looking for even more videos, though, YouTube is going to recommend one of these. So it's essentially like, all right, you watch this video, I think you're going to like one of these videos. Again, we got a lot of off-season news, a lot of off-season rumors. The Raiders Report's always going to do its best. Keep you up to date.